It's us again.
Yeah.
So we're really excited to be with you. And for those who are joining Penny and I for the first time, my name is Sandra.
And Penny.
I'm from Canada, and we're really excited to be working with you and learning with all of you today.
So for today's learning, we still will focus on the G Suite tools and to see how much you can do with interactivity with your kids.
Just to introduce a little bit for ourselves for those who don't know us yet. My name is Sandra Chow, and I'm from Canada, but currently I'm in Beijing as the Director of Innovation and Digital Learning. I've been using Google Tools since 2012, long time, actually when we were in Taiwan, and I've been using it, and especially in the classroom, and been training teachers around the world. I've been also a Google innovator and a coach for a lot of the innovators, so I'm really excited to be working with all of you.
Okay, I'm Penny. I used to work in Hong Kong at different international schools as a classroom teacher, also as a language specialist. I'm very passionate about using technology in my teaching and learning. Hope today's sharing will be helpful to you too.
So today our focus is on project-based learning, and we're looking specifically at how Google Tools can enhance your student learning. I know that there was already a session on project-based learning, how to use Google Sites. Ours is focused on many different Google tools that could be used for research and in fun ways to work with your students. Before we dive into that, though, we want to talk a little bit about why project-based learning. So I'll hand that time to Penny.
Okay, what is the project-based learning? As we copy that, as we're referencing that from the PBL works, is a teaching method in which students gain knowledge and skill by working an expected period of time and being in-depth investigating real, meaningful, and authentic world problems. And during this, in this session of learning, they will gain real experience by the investigation, inquiry, and work collaborating with your peers. And by solving these real-life problems in their lives, they build up their ownership and self-achievement.
And so why PBL? Well, as we shared last time in our session, there's a lot of skills that our students need to learn these days, and we often call these 21st century learning, although sometimes people feel that's a little bit out of date because it uses the word 21st century, but these are still skill sets that we often talk about. And Michael Fullen, a very prominent, actually Canadian educator, talks about some of the skills that are really important. And you can see that when we're doing project-based learning, these are some of the skills that really come out because students work in collaboration with each other. They're working on an inquiry problem, so critical thinking and problem solving as well as communicating with each other really comes through. And because it's focused on real-life problems, students really build up a global citizenship and an understanding of some of the needs of the world currently, including things like sustainable development goals or things that are really relevant to us. Many of the project-based learning that I've been seeing recently often relate to COVID and service learning projects that students can do related to help those who might be in need and who don't have the same experiences as them. And it really allows them to expand their creativity as well as to build their character as they learn to work with other people in these projects, but as well as to think about how their project can benefit the world and the society at large. So there's a lot of reasons why we want to do project-based learning. Now we're going to look at a few tools. So I'm going to start off by looking at some of my favorite things, which are Google tools. And I know you spent quite a bit of time with Nathan learning about Tour Creator as well as Google Earth. I'm going to dive in a little bit more today into Google My Maps, which is actually a tool right in your Google Suite. So if you go to just your Drive and open up Google Drive and go to New, My Maps is a tool that is right in your Drive, but it's hidden because you actually have to click on More. So once you go to More, or just hover over More, you'll see that there's an option called Google My Maps. And as soon as you click on it, it opens up a map that is just a blank map of the world. And when you use the map of the world, you can do quite a lot with it, but what I really love about my maps is that it allows for you to build on it, and it's actually a creation tool. The other piece is that it really allows students to document their learning, and it can be used as a non-linear way to record their research and the things that they do in their project-based learning projects. So one example is storytelling, and storytelling is a great project that you can do in humanities courses or in your language courses, whatever language it might be. And here's just an example of one. It's my story, and as it's easier to talk about myself. But my story actually starts with my parents. And they were born in Hong Kong, where they grew up. But when they grew a little bit older, they decided to go to university, and they decided to head to Canada. So you can see I dropped a pin. When they went to Canada, they went to university, and lo and behold, they met each other there at the University of Waterloo, which is a wonderful university. And you'll see why I think so. But you can actually see that in the story, I can go from point to point and include images and include stories of different parts of University of Waterloo, so you can see that. They then moved to Ottawa. So you can see this then zooms into Ottawa a little bit, and I can zoom in the map a little bit as well, so you can get a better view of Ottawa. But once I move into Ottawa, oops, sorry, it's kind of not listening to me right now. But once I move into Ottawa a little bit closer, you get a better view of it. You can actually also put videos to learn more about Ottawa. So as students are doing their project-based learning, they can insert pictures, they can insert videos, they can talk about it, and it's all in a very non-linear way, but it can also be in a linear way. Now, I grew up in Ottawa, and I was born there, but then I did move to Waterloo as well. So my story goes back to Waterloo, where I met my husband. So once I met my husband, I actually moved to Toronto. And this is actually where I'm going to start showing you how you can create this story as well, and how students can use this MyMaps tool to document their research, their findings, and to communicate with other people in interesting ways. So I went to Toronto and then Taiwan, and then right now I'm in Beijing. So I'm going to actually just put my point in Beijing, and it's hard to find it exactly. You can see how I was trying to maneuver the map and it was moving all over the place. So sometimes it's just easier to just go right to Beijing, China. And if I do that, it will drop a pin right into Beijing, China. Now, if I look at this, actually it goes right to the center of Beijing, which isn't really where I am at. I'm actually in Hoshayu, Beijing, China. And that will help me to go even more specific into where I am located right now. So this is actually right where I am. It doesn't actually show that it is a school here, but this is our school. And I'm going to click on this map location that right now says Hoshayu Police Station, but it isn't. And I'm going to add it to my map. Now I can then adjust this information very easily just by clicking Edit. So I'm going to call this Keystone Academy. I've already sent in to Google Maps that this needs to be fixed, so just so you, in case you're wondering, Keystone Academy, Beijing, China. So, or maybe I can even just do that. Keystone Academy, Beijing, and save it. Now, once that I save that, I can also change the marker. So instead of just a boring old pin, I can go to the fill button. I can change the color of the marker, so I can make it orange or blue, but I can also find these icons, so I can make it a shopping place or a parking lot or a house. But if I want to go to more icons, you'll actually have access to all these different types of icons that make it a little bit more interesting, like a bowling alley or whatever it might be. But I'm going to be even more specific and choose a custom icon. Now, I've already uploaded this custom icon, but if I click on custom icon, I can Google image search it and go Keystone Academy and find my own custom icon, like that one right there. Or I can find it in my photos or a Google Drive, or I can upload my own here. But since I had already uploaded it, I'm going to use the one that I already uploaded as a custom icon and say OK. So now in my map of all these little pins, you can see Keystone Academy is a special pin. And I can change each one of these as well individually by just clicking here, and I can say that is a blue home, or I can change each of these into different colors or to different markers. Ottawa was a capital, so I can make that a star. And I can make it orange. So you can see how you can change each of the markers. Now, as I click on these markers, it also moves to that location as well. Now, I'm not done fixing this Keystone Academy pin. I'm going to go into this pin now, and I'm going to add just a little bit more because I want to add images and videos as well. So I'm going to go in here and edit again. And if I want to add images, you'll see this little camera right here. If I click on the camera, I can add pictures from my Google Photos. So I can add a picture of my family, for example, because my family now all lives here in Beijing and Keystone Academy. If I want to add more pictures, you'll see that there's now a plus button. So I can press plus, and I can go to image search. And you can see that there's more options up here than there was when I had the custom icons, because you can't make a YouTube video an icon. But I can type in Keystone Academy. I can make this image of Keystone Academy one of the images. I can add now a YouTube video, so I can YouTube search, and I can say Beijing. And I can add a video of Beijing. And so now in this, if I save it, in this marker of Keystone Academy, I've got not only an image of myself and my family, I've got image of the school, I've got a video that can play of Ultimate Guide to Beijing.
If you're a tourist traveling around China, then there's every chance that
so
Beijing
that's
is top
one
of your
way
bucket
that you
list.
can add some of the research that the students have collected for this project in their story. I can also edit the context. So if they want to research something and they come here and they go to Keystone Academy Beijing, they might want to include some information about Keystone Academy. So they can add content. They can even take a URL link and type in here, this is my school where I now am teaching. My whole family is with me. Check out our school's website. Right, now if I save, it even turns the website link into a hyperlink, which is really, really handy. You can put quite a lot of text into here, but unfortunately when you press forward with the images, the text is still the same text. So if you want it to be different text, you actually have to create another marker, or you just add a lot of text and you can scroll down, and that's also possible. So that's just a really simple project that is related to a story or a storytelling kind of project. Now, you can also use My Maps for other things like researching in different ways. So here's one of a Silk Road journey. And similarly, I've just included that here in this particular map. And you can add layers. So if you have a whole map where you've created a Silk Road and you've had the students create different points, you can even make it collaborative where each student researches a particular part of the Silk Road and they put in videos and images and research that they find and links into this collaborative map. They can then use this as a collaborative project to share at the very end of their project. So this one is related to a Silk Road journey. Sorry, it's just a little bit slow right now. But once it comes out, oh, there it is. There's the marker. It's really quite a neat project where it's collaborative. The students are working together. They can learn from each other as they're working on this project, but it's also visual, which is a lot different from just using a Google slide with a map. They can actually zoom in on that area. They can also look at, they can also look at the view of this map, and they can also change different markers and add different points about it. So this is just a really cool way to be able to show a project. Now, one other project I wanted to show you was one where you can actually start to create a Mongolian empire. So you can actually create shapes on my maps as well, where similar to this image here, you can have students create different layers or shapes that highlight the expansion of land or territory. You can do this with polar caps and melting of ice, where the students can draw that area as well. And the neat thing is when you actually create these shapes, you can actually see the area. There's a calculation of the area of that land. So I can say Mongolia in 1837. I'm totally making up the numbers, so hopefully there's no history teachers out there right now. But it includes the square miles. And again, I can change the color of the shape, and I can also edit and add more details and add pictures of this empire, just like we did the markers. So now this land, you can have pictures of that empire during that different time. And then I can then create another shape that's a little bit bigger now. Oops. So you have to let go of each one. And now, okay, well, now this has expanded. Mongolia in 1840. I really hope nobody's out there. Again, I can change that color. So now, as you're including your building this empire, you can tell this story. When you do the style, you can also include change the transparency of this empire, or you can change the border width, so you can make it a little bit thicker, or you can make it a little bit thinner, and you can also change the border color. So there's a lot of options there, and you can see again the area, and it also includes the perimeter of that space. So a really powerful tool that can also be used to record, communicate, explain the research, show the research that the students have learned. And if you want to, you can also use these layers to help build on each other. So let's say I had all my students' stories here. I could actually have Sandra's story, Penny's story, Louie's story, and each one be a different layer. And then when it comes to celebrating and showcasing this work, it's all in one map, but everyone has their own layer, and I can hide them or show them all at the same time. if I want to. And adding layers are really easy. You just click add layer, and you're able to add another layer and just call that in. So a really, really cool tool for my maps. Now, other things that you might want to think about as you're using My Maps is think about environmental maps where you're showing areas and how the environment has been impacted by those different areas. So you're bringing in the Sustainable Development Goals and bringing in that piece. You can talk about primary water, or you can talk about healthcare. You can bring in data. You can actually have students put in the science data in terms of how much rainfall is in different areas, so they can create their own maps. You can talk about the spread of COVID and use the numbers that are coming in all the time, or the different countries and regions, and highlight them in different colors. There's another really cool project called Google Lit Trips that was created quite a while ago using Google Earth, but you can use that using Google My Maps and create your own storytelling by having students map out what happened in a story. So let's take Long Walk for Water, for example, as a story. You can talk about how the little boy walked from Sudan all the way to get his water, and the story that what happened along the way as he walked, and it brings a story to life for the students when they're able to not only read the story, but see it geographically, how long it is. And if they use the line tool on My Maps, even see in miles how far that boy might have walked. And that just brings that whole project and that story to life. Another really amazing geo tool is called Google Earth. And I know Nate also showed some of you already, for those who joined that session. But I'm going to show a different part of Google Earth today, and rather focusing on projects, I'm going to focus a little bit on the research that you can learn from Google Earth, because research is a big part of inquiry, and you want students to be able to know how to find resources. So one of the first things I like to do is fly students all over the place with Google Earth. So for example, I like to fly to Paris, and Paris, France, not Paris, Texas, thank you very much. And as soon as you type in where you want to go, it will fly you all the way into that part, and as you're zooming in, it will even fly you straight to that city. Now, if I want to be even more specific, I can even fly straight to the Eiffel Tower, which would have been much more cooler if I had done that in the first place. that was what I wanted to do, and I forgot. But it'll fly you straight to the Eiffel Tower, and it will zoom you in right to the Eiffel Tower, and so that you get a 3D aerial view of the iconic building. Now, once it flies there, it also will give you data in a research card about the tower. So I'm just waiting for it. So that's coming up, and there, as it comes up, come on. There's a research. Come on. I'm going to do this again. A research card will pop up. I'm sorry. And oh, there it is. There, see, it just needed time. And that's a really great tool to research. So I know a lot of times when students think about research, they go straight to Google and then they type it in, and usually the first thing that pops up is Wikipedia. And lo and behold, actually, Wikipedia does show up right here. And Wikipedia, I always tell students Wikipedia isn't the ending point, but a starting point when they're learning about something, because it does summarize a lot of the resources and the details, and you can always go to the bottom of Wikipedia to see where that primary source is that they got that information, but it does give you a really nice overview. So I do find Google Earth, if you're looking for research around certain locations or anything geographical, it's a great place to research because visually they can see the Eiffel Tower, they know where it is in the earth, it's in France, and then they've got the card right here. So rather than being a secondary place to research, it could be a first place. As soon as you know it's related to geography, they can research here. The other cool thing is when you're actually in the Eiffel Tower and you're zoomed in close, it's a great chance to use Pegman. You can use Pegman when you're really far up in the stratosphere as well, but when you're closer to the ground, there's this tool called Pegman that's super great to use. And when you drag him out, you'll see all these blue lines start to appear, as well as some of these blue dots. Now, I'm going to go into the blue lines first, because the blue lines are the street view that many of you probably know from Google Maps. And when you go into the street view, it allows you to actually walk through, and you can see the arrows, walk through as if the Google Earth vehicle had gone through, as if you're right there. So it gives you this 360-degree view of where that location has looks like. They can actually see the Eiffel Tower from the bottom. It's like you're really there. If you have the Google Earth app on your phone, you can even press one of the icons and it allows you to see it in 3D and use one of those Google Cardboards, and allows you to just immerse yourself in it. But when you're on your Chromebook, this is a great way for you to just tour around and just right from your own home, travel to Paris. Now, the other place that you can go, so I'm going to come out of this photosphere. So this is the Google Street View. These are the cars and the people walking with the Google cameras who have walked around and collected this data. But what Pegman also brings to you are all of these little dots. So what these dots are is, rather than just the data that's been collected by Google, people around the world have gone to these places and taken these 360-degree pictures of what it looks like. So let's say I come up here. I hope this is a good one. If I go into this little dot, it gives me not a walkable view of what Eiffel Tower looks like, but it gives me a photosphere perspective of what Eiffel Tower looks like on a different day than when Google with their car would have walked around. So sometimes these views would be at night, sometimes these views would be in the morning, but they're definitely a different perspective. And this one was uploaded by Paulo Almeida, thanks to him, and he just uploaded this as a photosphere for all of us to enjoy his perspective of what the Eiffel Tower looked like. So it's amazing, because now Google's collected all of this data and you're immersing yourself, and you can really tell students, well, this is what the Eiffel Tower looks like. Or if they go to the Gardens of Versailles, they can have a perspective of what that looks like. And the Google cart might not be able to get on the Great Wall of China, but I can, and I can take pictures and collect that photosphere for those of you who can't make it here during the COVID right now, for all of you to see. So it becomes a great research tool to really help students understand and feel and see what it looks like on the ground. So that's the photosphere tool. Another thing is that when you're actually on these locations, you can click on them, and it gives you if you add the points, it gives you actually the longitude and latitude, so you can see exactly where I am in that world. So it's just a really fantastic tool to get a view. I'm going to show you also Voyager really quickly, because this is a really powerful tool for research, where Google has partnered with many, many different organizations, including National Geographic, NASA, and brought together a lot of really amazing content. So if you go into Voyager, there are all these different topics that you can go into. So for example, if I go into nature, there is a whole bunch of different stories that allow me to learn about science. Again, a really fantastic tool just to learn about research. I really like the explore.org ones, because when you go into them, and there's another one called Birds of Audubon, when you go into these explore.org ones, not only do you get a view of these different birds and learn about them and where they live and where they migrate to, but a lot of the explore.org ones also come with these videos where you can go into these live cameras and see the bald eagles right in their live what they're doing at that moment. So if I click on play right now, it will show me a live view of what's happening with these bald eagles. Now sometimes you have to be careful, so rather than it being live, it actually says highlights. So you can tell whether or not it's live by whether or not it actually says live here. So when I click on play, then I'll know whether or not we're lucky right now. Oh, it's live. So it's nighttime, and these are the eagles, and this is a live camera on the eagle. So it's really exciting. But sometimes if it's not live, I guess I don't have to really be quiet. It'll say live highlights, because the eagle can't hear me. But these are just really fascinating. There's another really cool ones as well. So there's one called Folk Tales. So I'm just actually going to go straight into search mode, because then I can find it right away. But when I go into search mode, there's a fantastic one on folk tales around the world, and it'll fly you into different places around the world where you can actually look at folk tales and see what the stories are behind it. There's videos that go into it. It's and it's a story, but it also gives you a lot of learning and content. So there's just so much content in here that covers science. It covers social studies. There's another one on Indigenous voices, where they've captured 50 different Indigenous voices from around the world. I've highlighted in this particular slides the ones that you want to look at. So for example, this is home. It talks about homes from different parts of the world. There's one that talks about the Hokulea, who is a Polynesian voyage story from Hawaii that talks about, it's actually based on Moana, if you watched that movie. There's the folktale ones from around the world. So it's just really powerful. And then in addition to that, students can also tell their own stories by creating stories projects. So this is very similar to the My Maps, but the way that it comes out when you do it in Google Projects, which Nate Gildart already explained in more detail. So please do watch his session. He'll explain how you create all of this. Students can tell us stories similar to how I just told the story on My Maps, but in a much more beautiful and powerful way. So this one you can see is a journey about my father, where he was born, but it flies around visually into the different parts of Google Earth. And so that the storytelling that was originally done in this very flat 2D way on My Maps becomes 3D using the Google Earth projects. And again, you can still add pictures, you can add videos. This talks about the journey of my dad and where he was born and how he escaped from war and moved to Hong Kong at the age of 1. So it's just really powerful ways for students to tell their stories, to do projects, to research, and that's Google Earth. So I'm going to pass the time to Penny and hope that her tools can work better in this internet.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna talk about Google Arts and Culture. It's also a very cool and fantastic tool for a lot of subjects, such as arts, like they said, and culture, or music, or even language, literature. So when you go to the Google Arts and Culture, the website, you will see on the homepage they have 4 different options in the right corner for you to explore. Something like a homepage and explore and nearby and favorites. When you click the different icon, the name, the title, they show you different page. Let's say we go to Google Arts and Culture here, and then you will notice that there's a homepage every month. They will change the topic. Sometimes they promote a masterpiece, sometimes they promote a museum, or sometimes promote a specific artist's birthday or celebration his or her success. And then when we go to the Explore, and then you can use Explore as an inside search tool inside of Google Search and Google Arts and Culture. For example, if you want to do some like a learning thing stuff, you're teaching literature or indigenous language, like Cassandra said, you can use the search icon here to use the keyword search inside Google Arts and Culture. And then for the other thing is like they also categorize all the resources here by artists and mediums, art movements, historical events, historical figure. And you can also explore by time and color or by collection. So let's go to the next one. It's called Nearby, which I found is really cool because you use Nearby. They have you have to allow that to know your location from Google Arts and Culture. Then they're gonna collect all the data and a museum exhibition near you. And I found it's really helpful back in Hong Kong because I only know few of the museum or science museum exhibition. But when I use the nearby function from Google Arts and Culture, it pops up a lot of museum which I never know. And I think it was really cool, no matter for a virtual field trip or virtual trip now because of COVID. I think it's a really great tool before you do any field trip with your kids. Do some research before the real field trip and get information from the museum exhibition and know exactly what the topic they're doing and to see if it matches your teaching at this moment. And another one called a favorite, which is if you see any artwork or any collection on the Google Arts Culture, you can give them a like, and then all your collection, all the pieces you've been marked like will be pop up here.
I didn't mark any.
Yeah, we're kind of busy, with search. Yeah, we will explore later. But if you are interested in this artwork or whatever, you can mark this as a favorite, and then they will pop here. It's very easy, like a collection board, like you use Pinterest. And then we'll go back to another function, another part of the Google Arts Culture, which I think is really cool. The art crossword, it also, besides the resources, the material, museum, information, artist, work, they also create some really cool games for kids to play. For example, you can play the art crossword. They give you some hint like on the left side, it's telling you, please draw or pull out the contemporary arts masterpiece in these squares. And the other one, I think, is Renaissance from last time I played. And then you need to make this work, make it correct. If you didn't make it first time, they'll give you a hint, something like give another try. And I think it's pretty cool because they visualize all the information kids learn from the art class. Another one I would like to talk about, like Sandra introduced the amazing Google Earth and a Google Map. These tools can do a virtual trip or literature review trip. But guess what? During the COVID, all the museum virtual trip on Google Arts and Culture are open to our kids and the school. Feel free to use it and try it. Part of this picture I share here is from Guggenheim. And you can click that, and then they're gonna fly you to Guggenheim. I think it's in Spain, and then they will do a virtual trip inside the museum, which is really cool. You can have the chance to see all the artwork there. And then sometimes Google Arts Culture will celebrate specific artwork or author. For example, like 3 years ago, there's a Harry Potter's literature review field trip on this Google Arts and Culture. Students can have a chance to visit them virtually in British Museum, see all the work, all the costume and then this props from this story and then from this movie. And the nearby, I already shared with you, like to find more museum in the community. You will notice there have more museum than you expected. And then you can also use Google Arts Culture, Google Arts and Culture Learn Culture, language and music. You might not know there are 8 countries and cities who use Portuguese language. This is really something that I know. And this is one thing I want to share with you. I found it accidentally on my phone. So you can also find Google Arts and Culture on your mobile devices. Go to the Apple Store and search Google Arts and Culture. And then you can use the camera icon on the middle of your iPhone. And then you can choose the art projector. That means you can project all the artwork in any environment. Our school's grade 3 kids are doing some masterpiece imitation work. So I pop up the original work and compare with the work they made. And you see, you can also even pop up Mona Lisa work from the museum in our office, which I think is really cool.
So the great thing is it's available on the Apple Store. On the Apple Store, it's also available on the Google Play Store, and then therefore it's available for your Chromebook. So most of your Chromebooks now should be able to download apps, and so the Google Culture can also be downloaded onto your Chromebook.
Yeah, thank you. And now we're going to talk about the music. Since we talked about arts and culture, now how can we miss the music? Chrome Music Lab has very great tools for, especially for the younger kids, to learn about very abstract concept music. They talk about the chords, the rhythm, and also like making your own music or melody in the notes. So give you a chance to create your own music. So the first one I want to share with you, the rhythm thing, and you can go to this one, go to Chrome Music Lab, just like this, Music Lab, chromeexperiments.com, and then you can choose the rhythm. And it will show you different instruments lined up together, and then you can adjust the pace and also the rhythm by dragging around this the orange dot up and down, and then change the melody. And then if this is my decision, I can use the play button in the middle and this cute little monkey and play my music. Wait, maybe I need to drag down a little bit. A, okay. So if I want to change another side, I can do another one. They give you a chance to experience most of the instruments kids can play in their music lesson. And yeah, it's even have the drums, which is really cute. I quite like it. And the second one I want to introduce is this is called Kandinsky. Yeah, it's a very famous pianist from Russia, I think. So this one is really nice because it allows the students have a feeling like visualize the music they're creating. For example, if I draw some line here, and they all have their own tones, and randomly drawing it, and then I can use the play button again to test how my music sounds like. And then I can even change to different rhythm and adding players.
So I've seen it a lot where a lot of people create this music. So now instead of having students go onto different websites to download songs, they can create the music using something like Chrome Music Lab. Right on their Chromebook, create the music, download it, and then use it to add to whatever other projects it is. So whether it be storytelling, they can download this creation that they've made, and they can create music using art, using
the chord and the chord,
Yeah.
and they don't even need to register any account. It's really handy on their Chromebooks. And I would also like to share, after the arts, Google Arts and Culture and the music, I think it's the time for science. Let's hear what Sandra will share with us in Science Journal.
Yeah, so there's just so many projects you can do with students. So once they've created their music project, now you can actually have them to look at experiments. And experiments become quite a large project where they're taking analysis. And the neat thing is Google's created these amazing tools also for our phones. So I'm going to just pop up my phone right now where I can just show you what Google Science Journal does. And start mirroring. But this is an app that you can download not only for your phone but also on your Chromebook. It's much more powerful on your phone because when you actually use the mobile system, it actually takes a gyroscope and it takes the lighting and the camera and it actually records measurements. So for example, this is an accelerometer. So right now I am on the x-axis, so I can go back and forth on the x-axis. if I change to the y-axis, I can go up and I can go down, and it measures the acceleration of my mind going up and down on the y-axis, and then there's also the z-axis, which I think this way. Yeah, it goes this way. And then again, the faster I go, the more acceleration it does. So it does acceleration, it measures intensity. So if I cover up my phone, there's less intensity. The camera on my phone, if I open it up, obviously there's more light. So if I change the light setting around here, it also measures, there's a compass, so this can be used to measure where I am, if I'm doing geography. There's a speed accelerometer, so if I put this on a cart, it can actually measure how fast it's going per second. There's a magnetometer. Pitch, so la 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 la. It measures pitch. It also measures sound intensity. So the louder I speak, the louder it will go. So all of this can be recorded, and if I press the record button, it actually records it like an experiment, and then I can stop it, and then the students can actually then take this and write notes about their observations, and this is all recorded in this journal that I've done. And now if ever I want to come back to this, I have all this recording. I can even take pictures of what's happening. And this all becomes a part of my science journal. So really, really powerful tool. And unfortunately, Google Science Journal will be, moonlighting or sunsetting. I can't remember what you call that, but it actually got given or purchased or to Arduino. And so now you can just download it rather than, after December, it's going to be downloaded as the Arduino app, and it's exactly the same. It looks the same. You can see there's the different tools that you can have as well. So I can change the different types of things that I can do. But it's just now called Arduino Science Journal. So that is the Science Journal app. And the cool thing is, if you go to the sciencejournal.google.com, there's actually tons of resources and experiments and ideas that it gives to you, including projects it has done with other partners. My favorite one is it's done partners with, so if you go to experiments, it's done partnership with the band. I can't remember the name of the band. Oh, listen. Wait, sorry. OK Go. And so it's done all these cool experiments with OK Go as kind of their partner. And they're the one who did that cool airplane one, and they're flying in the air. Anyways, it would be a really fun project to do with students. So all of those are all in those resources, and the experiments are there as well.
Okay, nice. Talking about experiments, how can I forget Google Experiments AI, the artificial intelligence tryout on this website. When we go to AI experiments, they can have a lot of idea, like more than 50,000 of experiments being shown up and being shared on this website. There's a lot of cool things I want to share with you, but due to our time, I will share some of my favorite and see how it goes with your teaching, and feel free to try it. Go to their website. So the first one I want to show you is the quick draw. That is using the website quick draw, and then using the hint, say let's draw, and it'll give you a word, and you have to draw it in 20 seconds, and then they'll decide if it draw properly. So the first one's quite challenging, to be honest. I really have no idea how the cello looks like, but I'll try my best. And then, during the time you're drawing, you can see the timer up there. And then,
I see knee, or skyscraper, or leg, or toilet,
and then,
or purse.
Yeah,
I see houseplant, or helmet,
abstract,
or ice cream, or coffee cup. I see shovel,
okay, we're
or
trying our best.
or basket, or banana, or backpack.
Backpack.
I see harp, or fire hydrant, Sorry, I couldn't get it.
Yeah, but the nice thing is, you can practice I know, I'm terrible. So practice your language and listening and also your drawing skill. And guess what? The good thing about the drawing, quick draw, is when you finish the 6 objects drawing, you will have a chance to see other people drawing the thousands of the drawing made from other people with the same topic. And this is how the machine learns our drawing and then gave the guess. And then another one from the Google experiments with AI is called the shadow arts, which I think is really fun. The shadow arts basic idea is giving you the hint of a specific zodiac animal, and you're going to use your hand to imitate the shape and to let the computer decide if it matches. For example, you can see they're making a dog, they're making a pig now, and also a rabbit. So you can use the play button to show it, and you can play with your kids. So there really are a lot of cool stuff on the Google experiment with AI. Feel free to try it. And you are not only experiment, but also you learn the stuff from, for some teacher maybe thinking artificial intelligence will be too abstract, too far away from our kids. But guess what? Those little experiments is giving the kids a sense of what does machine learning look like? What is artificial intelligence really about? See, this is not that. It's a good thing about the experiment with AI on Google. It's build a connection even with our very young learners. Okay. So here is the quick draw and also the shadow art with AI. And another one I want to share with you is the talk to books, because I really like reading. And then the talk to books are very funny because they use a searching engine. You can say something to the books. You type something like the lines or the sentence or statements. And then when you hit the go, all the related artwork or the literature or any passages or any writing related to your typing and being referenced or being quoted in that specific literature or classic books will pop up, and you will have a chance to look through all these related topic at different books. And we would like to talk about something about research. I think we've done a lot of sharing today. What about research, collecting data, and visualize the data? But guess what? Besides Google YouTube search or Google Science Journal or Google Earth and Map, there are some really cool tools about Google Doc, Google Slide, and Google Sheet. It's called Explore. It's inside of Google. So when you open the Google Doc, let us show you. On the right corner, there's a tiny star called Explore. And then when you go there, you click that. You can see I already put some writing here. And when you click that, the Explore, and it will pop up something on the right corner. And if you notice that, they read the article, Google read the article, and then they gave you the topics, they're guessing the topics you're writing about, some art history, or civic discourse, or a work of art. So let's try to click this one, art history. And they will give all the information related to the thing you put it there, or you write there, or you want to use it for your literature research or whatever. And then you will see all the results being inside of Google Doc. You don't need to open another tab on your Chromebooks. Just one click. And also, besides the information, you can also use the image. All the artwork related topic will pop up again. And also, they might think some information you done before save on your drive, but probably you forgot. Guess what? Click drive. Everything related to the artwork of the keywords, they'll also pop up. And this is the Explore function. And I think one of the nice things about the Explore function in the Google Doc is when you use that resources, they will generate a footnote for you under the page, which is a good way to teach students the reference and the copyright. Besides the Google Doc Explore function, let's go back to the Google Slide Explorer. I want to show you right now because we're using Google Doc anyway, but I have to, is that okay? So when you open the Google Doc, and you will notice the same thing. On the right corner, there's this little tiny star, and you click it, it tells you the Explore function, and then it will rearrange the layout of your content and your picture. It feels like the whole design idea of your Google Doc layout will be changed. And you feel free to choose the one you think is matching the content of your idea of the designing. So Google Slide Explorer is more like a layout redesign. And the last piece but not least is the Google Sheet Explorer, which I found is really cool. They got a lot of information, more than the data you just put in the Google Sheet. When you open the Google Sheet file, again, you click the right star, Explore. You will notice they gave you 3 choices, which is analysis, formatting, and answer. Let's walk through all of the function one by one. The first one is called answer, which is you can type the question, ask about this data. Google spreadsheet will quickly read through our data and decide some of the way to answer your question. For example, you can search the question like a count of the winner, count of the addition of each winner, correlation teams, and goals scored, and they will pop up the answer right away. And if you want to check it's correct or not, normally they will give you another formula under the answer, and you can click that formula to see the whole process, how this Google Sheet been processing and calculating your data. And I think which is a good way to teach calculation on the Google Sheet. And another one is the formatting. This is probably the most simplest way for this, for Explorer. You change the different color in the scheme to change your whole design. And another one I really like their editing is like the pivot table. It's you choose the area of the Google Sheet data, and then you can use the table they gave to you and generate it. And if you find it's interesting, you can use that one. Click more. If you want to insert that, you can click the Insert Pivot Table, or you can just magnify or read it, like it has a preview. And you see exactly on the left side, give you the runner-up, and on the right side is tell you the average. And let's go to the analysis. Analysis probably is the most powerful tool inside of Google Sheet Explorer. It's more like a simple version of AI. It's calculating, but it's kind of read through your data and decide some of the best way to visualize your data. Okay, let's move forward to the analysis. And then you see all this table being made, but because I didn't choose any area. For example, if I choose this part, and they will do the calculation for me. Like we said earlier, answer, the sum, average, minimum, max, counting. And then let's go back to the chart analysis. For example, if I just want to know an average attendance, I just click this one. And this chart and the status being inserted inside the table, inside the Google Sheet right away. If I don't want it, I just click again. And then, or I can just magnify them to do some preview. You see actually there are 3 tables. So this is another one to show it, and this one, and this one. You can teach the students using this way the trending and also the changing every year and different visualization of your data. Because when we teach a chart, normally they have a lot of charts, like the bar chart, the pie chart, or when you use that visualized way inside of a Google Sheet, they don't even need to leave this Google Sheet. Just everything being done inside of the one sheet. Okay. Let's go back to our presentation.
So we hope that some of these tools will be really helpful to you. You can see that Google allows you to not only research, but also to create, to communicate, to analyze, and using artificial intelligence to be able to do all of that work for some of your students. And then it also allows you to capture data and analyze data and to communicate that in beautiful ways using things like the Explore feature in Google Slides or making graphs already for the students. So all of that can be done in your whole project-based learning using some of these tools. We hope this is helpful for you, and thanks for joining us. I know that this is the last session, and some of you might have a little bit of a quiz at the end, so hopefully it won't be too challenging, and thanks